resources. 248-848-1310. What do you think about that? Do you think the president is right in responding to this crisis by getting back to Washington? Is it, in fact, as I said, is it a CYA trip back to the White House after these many weeks of vacation while seemingly everything is falling apart here with the war in Iraq, now with Hurricane Katrina, and also this new noble cause? This would be noble cause number 4. That is, we need to stay in Iraq to protect those oil fields. Perhaps we've finally gotten to the truth. Perhaps after noble cause number 1, which was weapons of mass destruction, noble cause number 2, let me get this straight. What was noble cause number 2? Oh, building a model democracy in Iraq where you would protect minority rights and have a secular government as a model democracy for the region. That was noble cause number 3. Noble cause number 3 was that we have to honor those who have already died. So we must keep fighting to honor those who have died. That didn't go over big at all. And so now apparently noble cause number 4, which may actually be the truth, is we cannot let those oil reserves fall into terrorist hands or other hands that aren't ours. Perhaps we finally touched on this. I want to get into that as well as your calls on all of this. 248-848-1310. Bush makes a return to deal with this crisis. And it is a crisis. More news on it. We're going to go down to the region and get more reports of what's going on and what they're doing to stem the bleeding and the relief efforts as well. 248-848-1310. Your thoughts on multiple disasters really going on across the world as we speak. 19 minutes now past the hour. Traffic and weather with Marianne at 1310 WDTW, Detroit's Progressive Talk.
1310 WDTW, continuous traffic watch. Detroit's Progressive Talk.
I do know that he is going to survey the damage throughout all the parishes, not just Orleans, but of course there are 100,000 people in St. Bernard and Plaquemine. There are about 1 million people in Orleans and Jefferson.
That is Senator Mary Landrieu talking about some of the damage in President Bush's return to Washington to oversee the relief effort in Washington, D.C. It is 1310 WDTW, Detroit Progressive Talk. Good morning, Nancy Skinner here with you this morning. So much going on. My head is spinning, honestly. Lots of news reports about what's going on. Of course, the exploding damage caused by Hurricane Katrina, as well as a breaking news report out of Baghdad that some 635 people are reported dead in a single mosque incident. They were attending a Shiite mosque when somebody screamed that there was a suicide bomber. They fell to their death over a railing into the Tigris River. And President Bush yesterday gave a new reason, a fresh reason for going to war in Iraq, yet another noble cause, this in front of the USS Ronald Reagan, where he said a fresh reason for the U.S. troops to continue fighting in Iraq is protection of the country's vast oil fields, which he said would have otherwise fallen under the control of extreme terrorists. 248-848-1310, reacting to all of this information. Let's go to the phone. Cindy is up first on 1310 WDTW. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning. How are you, Nancy?
Well, I'm well, thank you. So much going on here. It's hard to sort of focus in, but thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
You're welcome. You know, Nancy, this is the first time I've ever called into a call-in show. I'll be honest, I caught your show on the way home from driving my son to school this morning, just, kind of flipping through the AM station. And reception wasn't that great, but I did catch, you had said encourage you to call in to give your viewpoint on the new fresh reason for going into Iraq. And as I was explaining to, I think, your producer, CD, I consider myself an intelligent person. I really do. And I think most Americans are, and understanding. And I didn't have to have any reason spelled out in the media, in print. I mean, everything that was spelled out, 1, 2, 3, 4, I already thought about ahead of time. I mean, I understood Saddam was a bad guy, had to be taken out. Should have been taken out a long time ago. Understood that. Understood you can't promote peace. You cannot have any peace in the Middle East until a whole life has changed. I mean, hundreds of years have been going on over there, and I understood something drastic had to be done. I also understood, if we cut and run, you can't do that either, because that would have created a chaos that we wouldn't even be able to understand or fathom. And the fourth thing I do understand, protecting those oil fields. I thought about that well before it was even mentioned in this speech. Those oil fields in the wrong hands could spell disaster, and it's already been proven they've been in the wrong hands before. It's been abused under Saddam's rule. It was supposed to go those, even the oil for food program. It was supposed to help people. Did it? No. So, as a superpower, I think the United States have a responsibility to look out for those types of interests.
Right.
Not for our own use, certainly not.
Let's go through a couple of those reasons that you understood, and it sounds like you've been obviously following this closely. So the first one you didn't mention was that there were weapons of mass destruction, and we were told the reason we had to go in was because of that mushroom cloud, and that without doubt, it was said to us, without doubt, Saddam had a program and was an imminent threat to our country. Now, how did you feel when that turned out to be absolutely false?
But you see, that's the thing. There were so many conflicting stories. They didn't have them. They did have them. Believe me, at one point, if you realized from the very beginning, when the UN inspectors went in there, he did have them. He did have them. He was so capable of creating, a threat. That again,
Cindy. Now, here's where you sound like a lovely and very intelligent person, but to say that he did have them is absolutely wrong. Even our own government has concluded. The 9/11 Commission. You had the Dulfer report. You have David Kay, the weapons inspector, when he said we were wrong, we had it wrong. Now you have the official word is he ceased all weapons programs in 1991. We interviewed last week a nuclear scientist from Iraq, the number one scientist who said, yes, they had ceased all programs in 1991. So, in fact, nobody believes, even the administration is saying he did not have those weapons of mass destruction. So I don't know where you're hearing these conflicting reports that he did have them. It's absolutely not true. But let's move on to another point. He didn't have those weapons of mass destruction. Then it became, as you said, it was necessary to create this democracy for the Middle East. Well, what we have now is a situation where they have majority rule of the Shiites, and the Kurds they've agreed on a constitution. The Sunnis are being left out of this. They're just going to try to pass it. It might not even pass because the Sunnis have the ability to block it. You have they're basically fighting over oil because these Shiites want their own autonomous region in the south, which is oil rich, and the Kurds have theirs in the north, which is oil rich. That's the problem. They're fighting over oil, and women will be thrown under the bus as they've adopted Sharia law. Women now, do you realize what's going to happen to them? They have to have permission to marry. Women can be allowed to marry at the age of 9. They lose all rights as far as divorce. They lose custody. Women who had equal rights in this country now are going backwards. They're being stoned to death in some parts of Iraq if they're not wearing their burqa. So how does the model democracy and human rights argument play out for you?
Okay. You're saying the women have less rights than they did before.
Absolutely.
I don't think they had many rights to begin with.
Yes, they did. Under Saddam Hussein, women were doctors, lawyers. They had no requirements. It was a secular society. They had no requirements for covering themselves or veiling themselves. Iraq before this was the most modern Islamic country in the whole Middle East in terms of women's rights, and now they have gone back to perhaps the most regressive.
Nancy, I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight. It may not even happen in my lifetime. It's taken, that country has been in that state for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That mentality, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's got to start somewhere.
And how many U.S. soldiers need to die for 100 years until we're able to turn this situation around? And why is it in our interest exactly that all we should sacrifice? Even the Republican senators, it's Senator Warner said, and he's going to hold Donald Rumsfeld responsible in a hearing when they get back next week. He said, our nation has given so much to the Iraqi people, and what are they giving us in return? That's from Republican Senator Warner.
You can say that about any country we go in to help. The United States is, I mean, if we're a superpower, we have a responsibility. We've set that tone. In the 20th century, we've set that tone. We are a superpower, and we have a responsibility. We're a civilized country that has a caring, I don't want to go into a whole religious thing. Believe me, I don't. But we are a caring country. And if we expect to lead, sometimes we have to make decisions that aren't going to be popular. Leaders aren't always popular. And I sympathize with, the ones that feel we shouldn't even be there. Truly, I do. I don't like being equated to Vietnam because I truly don't think it is. And I don't think it's fair to the soldiers over there. I really don't. Now, anyone can have an opinion. Yes, I don't like war. I don't know anybody that does. I have friends that I know are over in Iraq. My daughter, talks to a soldier over there. But you know what I'm hearing from them? We're here for a good reason.
What is the reason,
really
Cindy? What is the reason again?
Hate the fact that the media makes them appear like the Vietnam soldiers.
I mean, what is? I understand. I can feel you really emotionally are impacted by this. I think you are intelligent, but I still haven't gotten from you, Cindy, the good reason yet. The good reason. What is the good reason we are there?
Okay, all right. I thought I spelled it out clearly, and Saddam, bad man. I think of him in the same words, in the same light as Adolf Hitler. Very bad man. Okay, needed to be taken care of. Again, should have been taken care of prior administration. Wasn't.
Okay.
After 9/11 happened, all hell broke loose. Everything changed after 9/11.
But Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11, and Saddam Hussein did not kill 6 million people. I mean, what's going on there now?
Wait a minute. Time out. 6 million Jews. You're equating with the 6 million Jews that were killed. How many mass graves did they find over there?
Not even on the
one person.
6 million people.
A dictator like that to me is too much.
And look what's going on with these religious now. They each have their own militias. Muqtada al-Sadr, who is the Shiite leader over there now, has been conducting mass killings of Sunni minorities. Saddam was a bad guy, but you've got lots of religious bad guys over there now. So we went over there basically, Cindy, and turned one bad dictator, a Sunni one, into a Shiite fundamentalist republic that is engaged in civil war where they're killing each other anyways.
Okay, all right. I look at it this way, Nancy. A leader. We lead the way. No, it didn't happen that way. Not every country, not every civilized country in the world joined the ranks. I mean, we've got a lot of support, but a lot of people backed off. Why? For various reasons, I don't know. I don't even want to go into it. But bottom line is, had this been done, where everyone was on board, and at one time they were, okay, the rest of the United Nations at one time did agree. Saddam's a bad guy. Got to get rid of him. Let's impose sanctions on him. How many times do you do that? And he did have those weapons, and maybe he moved them well before this whole war started. But he did have that. He did have that capability.
Well, Cindy, I have to run because I've already gone 5 minutes over, but you were such a compelling caller, and that I wanted to talk to you because obviously, and I thank you for calling, but obviously, this is where we are. We're in a situation where we have people that still believe that there were weapons of mass destruction, and that just getting rid of one bad guy was worth it when, in fact, what we've installed is a fundamentalist republic where these guys are killing each other. Muqtada al-Sadr, you think he's a good guy? There's a website, Sistani.org, another Ayatollah over there in imposing religious rule. You wouldn't believe some of the things that they're trying to do. As smart as you are, Cindy, as well-spoken as you are, you didn't give me one good reason why we're in Iraq. 248-848-1310. Phones are lit up. We'll get to your calls. Next, it's 35 minutes now past the hour. 1310 WDTW, Detroit's Progressive Talk.
Now, the latest headlines from the 1310 WDTW newsroom.
It's been 48 hours.
Detroit's Progressive Talk.
Nancy Skinner, AM, on 1310 WDTW, Detroit's Progressive Talk.
42 minutes past the hour at 1310 WDTW, Detroit's Progressive Talk. So much going on this morning. Some more breaking news that the administration has said they will release some oil from the strategic petroleum reserves in an effort to try to bring down the prices. This is a result of Hurricane Katrina. President Bush headed back to Washington, D.C. to manage a command control of the effort there. This even as he gave a fresh reason yesterday for being in Iraq, and that was to make sure that those oil fields do not fall into hands of people we don't want them to fall into, even though if the Shiites are controlling Iraq, the majority party, they are allied with Iran, who I believe was also on the axis of evil. And so I don't know, are those good hands to have those oil fields fall into Iran? Just had a very thoughtful call from a woman named Cindy, who went through a number of reasons and said she still believes that those weapons of mass destruction were in Iraq, and that we are setting a model democracy up there. One thing I just want to add to the conversation, 248-848-1310, was that there was an article in the Sunday New York Times about the fact that we will not give the Iraqi police the heavy military weapons that they are requesting. They want helicopters. They want sophisticated American-made M4s instead of their AK-47s, their 1970 Russian assault weapons, all these things, because they can't fight these wars with Nissan pickup trucks and AK-47s. But according to this piece, we don't want to give those heavy weapons to them because we don't know what's going to happen 6 months or a year from now, that they could have a civil war, a coup. And one military a person is quoted in this article as saying, we're worried about a civil war or a coup. So on the one hand, we're saying we will stand down when they stand up. On the other hand, we're saying we don't trust them with the weapons to do that. 248-848-1310. Back to the phones. Susan is up first on 1310 WDTW. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Nancy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to respond to Cindy on a couple of things. First of all, when she says that all the things that Bush said at the beginning of why we went to war, why he started the war were right. The point is that if he thought all of these were true, why weren't they all said at the beginning? Instead, every time one was proved erroneous, he tried to find another one. That's the first point.
That's right.
Second point, she said, when this war started, it was not spontaneous combustion. Bush started the war. It didn't just start by itself. And then just a point, now that we have this dire situation in New Orleans, how about instead of Bush asking that we send prayers to the people down there, as strong as some people may think prayer is, how about taking some of the billions that we just gratuitously send to Iraq and help the people in New Orleans?
Mm-hmm. Well, and some of the troops. There are over 4,000 Louisiana National Guard troops serving in Iraq right now, and they are desperate for those troops right now as they try to rescue people. That's why we have National Guard and Reserve troops for the needs of a state.
What's happening in Louisiana and Mississippi, we're in a crisis here, and it seems to me, we look back, America always is very generous. I don't know how many billions and millions we pledged to the tsunami. But we now have a crisis in this country, and what Bush has done over his last 6 years is destroy this country. Morally, financially, we're in terrible straits. And the best that he can say is we should send our prayers.
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's, part of his shtick. But thanks, Susan. Appreciate you making those points.
Okay, thanks for being on the air. It's such a delight to have a place that we can say what we feel.
Well, we're glad you take the opportunity to do that. Lord only knows. It's therapeutic that we can talk.
It absolutely is. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. 248-848-1310. New job numbers out as well by President Bush. His approval rating is, this is the ABC Washington Post poll. Job approval at an all-time low for this polling outfit, 45%. They point to the war in Iraq, but now say that the price of gas has really pushed him over the edge into their all-time low numbers. 248-848-1310. Let's move on to Ken now at 1310 WDTW. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Nancy. I got three things to say, and I'll try and keep them all short. Boy, what a lot of claptrap from that woman. She drank the Kool-Aid, and she needs to take off the blinders and take a critical look at what's going on over there. When the Republicans support any sort of military action, you always have to be suspicious that it's because of economic reasons, and it's all about the oil. There's a resource there that we want our hands on. When there's no resource and it's some sort of humanitarian issue like we had in Serbia, and a liberal president is advocating that we take action, they're dead set against it. Mm-hmm. If we're going to put American resources out there, we have to be getting something back from the Republican standpoint. I'm changing the subject. Where's our president right now? If Franklin Roosevelt or Bill Clinton were the president, last night they would have been on television saying, here's what we need you to do. They would have been a leader. Mm-hmm. And we need somebody out there saying, okay, American public, there's a crisis in New Orleans, there's a crisis in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and here's what we need you to do.
You know what President Bush said? His comments on the crisis with Hurricane Katrina was, just follow the directions of your local authorities. Everybody, that's what he told people to do. And you know what? I don't know if you heard the show yesterday, but I got pummeled yesterday by people when I said I thought that in anticipation of this hurricane, because we all knew this could be what it is. I mean, this really wasn't a surprise, that he should have been back there. If he could have gotten back for Terry Schiavo, he flew back from his vacation to sign that bill about Terry Schiavo, then certainly there should have been a command center. There should have been an anticipated response for this one, and there wasn't. Now he's coming back. I think it's CYA coming back to deal with this. But his only response was follow the advice of your local authorities?
Absolutely. And if you think about what somebody in his position of power could do, he could be asking the trucking industry, he could be asking all of the industries that have resources that can be brought to bear on that problem. He could be leading the moves, the activities that need to take place to get those resources down there, and asking essentially what FDR did in so many times of crisis. Listen, we have a need. Here's what we need you, the American public, to do. And that's how we beat the Nazis. And we here we are again with another challenge facing America, and a Republican leader whose only thought is, boy, maybe I need to release some oil from the oil reserve. And other than that, you should pray.
Pray.
Yeah.
Your prayers are welcome.
Yeah. And I guess if that's the best he can do, we need a real leader.
It's not good enough. It's absolutely not good enough. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate your calling. You have a good day today. 248-848-1310. Absolutely not good enough. And I can't stipulate enough that I don't see. I can't see this particular president as someone who is thinking in advance of all these things, just like the war in Iraq. Another thing, this was another piece, and we're going to talk to this guy, I believe, tomorrow. He's written a piece in Foreign Affairs magazine, How to Win in Iraq. He's a retired colonel, a graduate of West Point, and he actually a very good strategy of how we could win in Iraq. And it's a different kind of military strategy to beat the insurgents. But he said it was never thought through, that there still are no clear metrics, there's no clear strategy, that the planning isn't there. So is it a surprise or a shock to me that in advance of what experts were telling us could be the worst natural disaster to hit America, that these guys weren't planning? No, they didn't plan an invasion in Iraq a month before we went to Iraq. Cindy, I don't know if you know this, it was reported a month before. President Bush was getting tutored on the makeup, the ethnic and religious makeup of Iraq. That's not planning. People were saying, I was saying on my radio show, wait a minute, even if we are able to turn this into a democracy, it's a majority Shiite nation. Aren't we just going to have majority rule? And isn't it going to be an Islamic republic? Before we invaded Iraq, I was saying that. Before. How long ago was that? And now they're saying, wow, this is a bummer. Now we've got this Islamic Republic. We don't know what to do with it. This isn't what we thought it would be. Come on. I'm a radio talk show host. 248-848-1310. Willie's up next on 1310 WDTW. Good morning, Willie.
Good morning. I just want to know, what did George Bush's father mean when he said that we're going to have a new world order? In order to have something new, you have to destroy what exists. And that's exactly what's happening in America. So I just
I don't think it's purposeful. I can't go that far. I don't think they intended to destroy the world or to cause all this. I think it's just so misguided or myopic or whatever. And I think a lot of their own political and economic interests, trumped what was good policy for the United States and for the world, that it ended up being that way. But I wouldn't say that Bush came in saying, I'm going to destroy the world so we have my dad's new world order. That's...
Well, they depleted the Treasury. They want to attack our Social Security. on and on. They talk about assassinating people, religious right, and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not working out, thanks, Willie, for your call, the way that they wanted it to, I am sure, but I don't think it's intentional. I can't go that far. 248-848-1310. Bob is next on 1310 WDTW. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I guess I'm getting really sick and tired of people blaming the Republicans, blaming Bush, blaming, first of all, this is Mother Nature. Yeah, things can be done. But, right now, nothing can be done because the place is still flooding.
Well, I mean, nobody's blaming Bush for the hurricane itself, Bob. Okay, but...
Yeah, well, they're blaming for his lack of actions, lack of reactions. My God, hey, let's be a Monday morning quarterback and see what everybody can do,
But you know what? It's not necessarily just.
Make me laugh.
It's not just Monday morning quarterbacking. I was on the air before the hurricane, a couple of days as it was brewing before, and had people on saying, "Wait a minute, direct hit on New Orleans, Category 5." I guess it was the day before. This is. Experts were saying this could be the biggest natural disaster to hit America. Don't you think it would have been prudent? He is the president. It's not just about Bush. His title is President of the United States, Commander in Chief. Don't you think it would have been prudent for him to have come back and convened the officials to say, "Are we ready for this?" Can't you?
Well, let's look at that. All states whine that the federal government gets too involved in what the state does, but yet they want money from the federal government. So once the federal government says, "Okay, you states need to run yourself. You know what you need to do best," and now people are pissing and moaning that he didn't do enough. I mean, people want the best of both worlds. You want the state to run itself, leave the federal government. I am personally one that believes we need less government.
Okay, Bob, I'm out of time, but I do appreciate you calling. I don't think that the states stricken with the biggest natural disaster in history say, "Leave us alone, we can handle this." More to come. Your calls next. 54 minutes past the hour now. Traffic and weather with Marianne. 1310 WDTW.
1310 WDTW.